Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Before we start the show, I need to share something really exciting. It's called the About the Winelands pop-up. And if you want to get your customers excited about your lockdown or online specials, you need to email us right now. Email us at visitthewinelands@gmail.com and add Winelands pop-up to the subject line. Who knows? We might just make you an offer you cannot refuse. That is visitthewinelands@gmail.com. Now, on with the show. Good day, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Lisa from Lisa Loves Wines. Welcome, Lisa, to About the Winelands.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the invite.
So, Lisa, tell me, how are you enjoying your lockdown period? Are you having a good time?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm enjoying the 2 hours extra a day. It's quite refreshing. To wake up refreshed every morning is a nice thing. I've never been a morning person, so well, that's quite nice. And otherwise, I must be honest with you, I enjoyed the time with my kids and my family. It was all an unusual experience, something we most probably will never have again. But I think it can slowly but surely come to an end now. I'd love to go walk on the beach and go back into the winelands. I miss it. I miss it terribly.
So, talking about the winelands, how did you get involved in the wine industry?
I went to Stellenbosch University.
Oh, that's a good way to start, right?
Yes, I think so too. Yes, a university in the winelands. So it's everyone was sort of involved in the wine industry. No, seriously, I at that stage I was romantically involved with the person who's my husband now, and he was as a winemaker, and all the events we went to, everything was around wine, and it united us because it meant meeting people, eating great food, and having great moments together, and we just loved it. It was a nice industry to be in, and it involved and connected a lot of different types of people. So it was lovely. That's how it started. And he then moved to Germany as a flying winemaker. And after my studies, I also went to Germany and stayed there for over 18 years before coming back to South Africa. But because I studied politics and multicultural relations, my partner was stationed in a very small remote little town with only one employer, which was at that stage the largest wine producer in Europe. It was also the only place where I would be able to work. So that's how I got into the wine industry itself. I started to work for this wine producer. And then once I returned to South Africa, that's how I created Lisa Loves Wines. I started Lisa Loves Wines with the experience that I had in the industry in Europe.
Well, that's awesome. So I mean, you've been in the wine industry for quite a while. So, and also you speak different language. Which languages do you actually speak?
I speak Italian, French, German, and a bit of Spanish, as well as Afrikaans. Afrikaans is my mother language.
Amazing. So, Lisa Loves Wine started as a tour business, am I right?
Yes. Well, I worked in the wine industry before. So when I came back to South Africa, I initially looked for work in the industry. But it really bothered me to think that I would be spending so much time in an office under a roof within four walls, or traveling again, which I didn't want to travel again at that stage. I wanted to stay put. So, it started by chance, really, as it so often does. And one tour guide actually in a coffee shop recommended an institute where I could get myself qualified. And that's where I started to freelance as a tour guide. And I then started Lisa Loves Wines as a company offering wine tours because that was inevitably my background. And I just enjoyed it so much to be back in South Africa and the winelands. I wanted to share this joy, Often people who live in their own country, inhabitants or locals of such absolute beauty are sometimes oblivious. They're oblivious to the grandiose mountain backdrops, the sea views, the landscape, the wildlife, and that you can enjoy all of this while softly sipping wine in the sun. I mean, it's like gorgeous. It's simply stunning. So I wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to experience it more. And yeah, but the wine tours, they were just the start of it all. Lisa Loves Wine's goal is to be a platform where people can connect and learn, and a platform where there is a cultural exchange, and enjoying authentic cultural experiences. Yeah, so that's the beginning of Lisa Loves Wines, was actually just showing the world what the Cape is all about. But in the future, I hope to show the Cape what the world is all about in terms of wine. So that's the next challenge. You can watch the space.
Well, that's interesting. So, Lisa, what makes your, I mean, why would I come on your wine tour? What makes your wine tours different to other people's wine tours?
Well, they're very personal. They're authentic. They're in the tourist's home language, and Lisa Loves Wines can relate back to the tourists in the term that the tourist might understand and know, because of my experience in Europe and the mindset of the European consumer, and also the wine consumer, for which in which I work, in a milieu in which I worked, and as a brand manager and in marketing and sales. So it's a different type of tour if you can relate back to where the tourist comes from. No.
Well, that's interesting. So, people come on the tour. Do you personally take them on the tour?
Yeah. Yes, at this stage I do it personally. Well, at the moment not, because of the virus. Funnily enough, the virus is, well, my industry is wine and tourism, and both of them are pretty much kaput now in lockdown. But when I do tours, I do it personally. It's all hands-on, and yes, what people appreciate is the knowledge of wines. Yeah, as I said, in the language of origin, and the personal nature. I think people appreciate an authentic experience. And I also visit wineries that not run of the mill wineries, smaller wineries, or just unknown wineries. Each winery has a story to tell. So that's what makes it a bit different.
Well, that's very nice. I mean, that's our
Hello?
aim is to tell the story of the wine. Yeah. I quickly want to share something exciting. I have heard via the grapevine that the Fishwives Club will be launching a new lifestyle club soon. If you have not heard of the Fishwives Club yet, just know that you are probably missing out on the sexiest wine label out there. To stay in the loop, please quickly go and follow them on Instagram. The Instagram handle is @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Let me repeat that, @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Now, on with the show. So, Lisa, in terms of any other services you offer or you're planning to offer, can you keep it a secret to a later date?
It's a little bit, well, it's a little bit fresh, okay, but I'm super excited about it. So I'm going to reveal it. I would like to offer a platform for other wines, for people in Cape Town who are interested in wines. I find that there's a lack of accessible European and other world wines in South Africa, and I would like that will be my next project, because I'm literally sitting at the source of a whole network of producers in the world that offer wonderful value for money and are unknown. And I think the South African wine connoisseur is appreciative enough of good quality wines that do not need to be a brand or a well-known brand or wine. I think South African palates are evolved enough to be able to appreciate lesser known, good value for money wines. And I would like to import these and offer a platform not only to taste the wines, but to experience them as a cultural offering, with food, and still want to see how it develops with maybe, for example, if you do sherry, then you might have uh, a flamenco player, or you do sort of a pop-up system where you, for 1 month, you showcase sherry and the region sherry and the culture of sherry, the food of Jerez, and the next month you do the south of France, but with brands that you might not know, and are still great value for money. I look forward to partner with someone in the future and offer this right here, and especially now after Corona, where people might not be able to or do not want to travel to these countries, offering them right here, these experiences right here might be very interesting.
I just wanted to ask you about that. I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I wondered if you're planning collaboration with some local partners or even other producers locally. That I think personally that for somebody here in South Africa to appreciate their own produce and our own wines, we need to expand our horizons and taste other stuff as well. So yeah, I think that is absolutely a fantastic idea.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no with other individuals, yes, but not with wineries at this stage. No.
Okay, that's
because
interesting.
I would be strictly speaking not a competition to them, but it would also be interest. Well, funnily enough, the winemakers in the region, all the people, the producers in the region, they all import wines from all over the world to be able to benchmark their own product. Because that's
Yes.
the one thing that's missing in South Africa, is that we have in European countries, or in Germany, where I lived before, you have everything on offer. You have every country on offer, and the countries compete with one another on the shelf. Whereas here, we only have, generally speaking, South African wines, and I think people are open to new tastes and new backgrounds and new cultures. And it's just a question of getting the right entry point, because there's a misconception that overseas wines are extremely expensive, but that is in fact because it's always the brands that we see, and not necessarily the plain run-of-the-mill wines that are excellent quality and good value for money. And this is what I would like to showcase.
Well, that's amazing. So Lisa, as a wine tour guide, and also with your business, Lisa Love Wines, and your presence online, you're becoming an influencer in the wine industry. So if a wine producer or a wine estate is sitting there and thinking, I want to get more people to me, how do they get your attention? What do they need to do?
It's so easy, all producers are unique. They all offer a story to tell, and I enjoy hearing all of them. My main media platform is Instagram at the moment. I just enjoy the simplicity of pictures, videos, and a few words. And this is the thing that I particularly, as with people, wineries, producers, each winery or producer has a specific angle and a specific story to tell, and I think that I'm quite good at finding that story and portraying it, an authentic story, not necessarily that which most marketers tap into, where you need a lot of money. I don't believe in that. I believe in finding that story or that angle which everyone has, because all wineries are unique, all producers are unique. Finding that story, and it's not an expensive thing, and then to speak of that and reveal that to the world. And I think that's what makes Lisa Loves Wines unique, is the capacity to see that in a producer or in a winery.
That sounds awesome. So you've mentioned the coronavirus, and like you said, it forces everyone to rethink their business models. I like your idea of bringing the world to South
Yeah,
Africa.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have any other changes or ideas for your business in mind? And do you
Yeah.
have any ideas for maybe for your producers as well, on what they can do while they're stuck in a system where they can't really accept visitors to their place?
I think this is a wonderful opportunity to engage with your customers, with your public, in an interesting, yeah, well, as I always say it again, but in an authentic manner, to find what is your unique offering. And that, that I find very important for all producers, is to find that and to showcase it. But the way that the world of tourism will change, at least, is that I think we're going to have to focus a lot on local tourism and engage our own people, and that's going to be important for wineries and producers to find a way how to attract them. I envisage like family reunion packages, where people can come out to the winelands, to a place that they maybe don't know, and sit around a fire and drink wine and enjoy each other's company as a family, where they feel safe and secure. And that's going to be very important after the corona, is that people feel safe, and feel that things are clean, and that they can be sure that um, the chances are very small that they will contract the virus, because that's something that's on everyone's mind.
Awesome. That sounds like a very good idea. So, Lisa, your wine journey has been interesting. So, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
That most people in the world have the same idea about life, love, and laughter. We can all sit around a table, enjoy each other's company, all of us, mostly. It's rare that people are utterly unenjoyable. All we need is a table and a glass of wine and a platform to connect.
That's interesting. So, on that note, can you give us your very own wine quote?
Yes. Wine and vines are very much like people. Those that struggle or make an effort in life are far more interesting and have more character than those who do not.
Awesome.
That's my finding. Yes.
That's very good. Lisa, if people want to get hold of you, how do they find Lisa Loves Wines? How do they find you?
On Instagram, on Facebook, those are the platforms that I am keeping up to date. I'm restructuring my website, as everyone else is doing in the corona time. And my website will be live within the next month. I'll have my new website out.
Awesome. We'll put all the links down in the description. Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time speaking to us, and I'm sure our listeners will find this interesting.
Yes, thank you.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I know you're busy, so thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Good day, everybody, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Arco Laarman from Laarman Wines. Welcome to About the Winelands, Arco.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me on your talk.
No, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. I'd really love to know, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in winemaking and in the wine industry?
Yeah, look, funny enough, I'm not actually not from the Cape. There are a couple other winemakers that are not Capies, but I was born up in Joburg, in Roodepoort, and my brother was a Navy diver. We used to come on holiday a lot down to the Cape as a family when we used this flat. And towards the end of our school holidays, obviously, it's family outings. You followed the parents around. We ended up going to the winelands for a day, and I was at that time probably like 8 or 9. Walked into a cellar, and it must have been just before after harvest. Because you can never forget that. And I looked at this and never knew of it as a career choice. Even more so when I went back to school up in Joburg, and they didn't even know what it was. They thought winemakers were just like mechanics that work in the background. And yeah, I started in high school and was already reading the wine magazine. I remember the first one that came out was Peter Ferreira on the front cover. And yeah, my mom has always been very free to let us follow our own paths. And what happened is the plateau was still very thin in '95, and there wasn't emails yet. So we set up a letter and sent out faxes to potential farms that I just sort of earmarked in the plateau, and came up to Kaapstad, the Statler family, and I was obviously just out of matric, 19, and they took me on more. It was actually Ingvild, Dani's wife, that sort of pushed me more as help for Dani. Dani Senior had never had anyone before, and I then took a job there more as eyes for people stealing wine out the cellar. But it was then I actually ended up staying 3 years with them and became part of the family. And really, I'm very close to Dani Jr. We sort of brothers from another mother type thing, because he was in standard 7 or 8 when I met him. And when he realized that as a winemaking family, he took it for granted almost that you're born in this industry. But then he saw the passion that I had for not having that, call it generational right to take over a farm. And it really drove to him that he understood that he had a great opportunity within his family to start, and that's where he is, and he's doing a great job running the family business there now. Spent 3 years with them, and then worked for a mobile bottling company. Was very interesting. Got to meet a lot of different farms that you would not have necessarily have known from. That's how I met David from Glencarlo. They didn't have a bottling line at that time, and he sort of offered me how I worked on the line and that, and I was a little weary. I said no the first time, and then did a bottling again with him, and he sort of pressed again, and it's like, oh, and I said, okay, well, let's go for it. So then I actually, before starting at Glencarlo, which was middle of '99, I then went to America to Hess Collection, which was part of the Glencarlo group in those early years, and did a harvest there. And it started at Glencarlo in 2000, and then did vintages in Australia, France, Germany, and Austria over the couple of years. And then Glencarlo started getting quite large, and David Finnison, the whole farm was sold in the the mid 2000s, and then David left in 2009, and I took over as head winemaker and continued there until 2016. The reason I left Glencarlo was I'd been there 17 years. It was like almost part of the furniture, and I decided if I don't do it now, I'll regret it. So I decided to start my own company, which was when I started Lahman Wines. First vintage was 2017. So I finished at Glencarlo end of 2016, and Lahman Wines is still, it's only year 3 now. But that's where I am. So I buy wines from different regions. I'd only worked with Paarl grapes for so many years that it was now time to say, well, let's try and do Chardonnay from a cooler climate. There's a couple of independent that are multi-regional, which is also interesting, and it gives you a bit of diversification of working with a specific variety in a different area.
Wow, this is interesting. So I just want to know, Arco, if you, I mean, you knew from a young age that that you're going to be in the wine industry. At what age did you start drinking wine?
It's funny. My parents were not big wine drinkers. My heritage is Dutch. Arco is obviously an unusual name. It's sort of a mix from Anko and Arno. Then Laman, there's not many Lamans in the country, but the interest I had actually sort of made interest in my parents, so that they moved to Cosmos in Hartbeespoort. They've got a beautiful guest house there. They actually literally put a cellar into the mountain for the guests, but for myself to play a bit. And yeah, I didn't actually drink a lot of wines until I started at Kaapstad. I would more manage their sort of cellar. So I would see certain wines ahead, and then let's keep that, and let's see if that's going to stay. And my dad also, I entered a Chateau Libertas box competition, not box, I mean like a wooden box, not bag in the box, but it was a wine magazine competition. I had to use my dad's details because it was still underage. And then he got this letter that we were one of the 50 guys to win this box. And it's actually a beautiful Chateau Libertas vintage, when it still had those gold Superior stickers from 1982, 3, 4, 5, 6 vintages of 6 bottles. My dad almost threw it away because he thought it was a promotion, but then he actually saw that we won this thing. And it was me as a minor that's now trying to win competitions out of the wine magazine.
Well, that's fantastic. So tell us a bit, how you started Laman Wines, the wines you are making, and also, I mean, your winemaking philosophy.
Look, a lot of it comes from my philosophy in wine is also more driven towards the varieties that I work with. To be fair, my company is only 3 years old now. There are certain wines and projects still up and coming, but obviously having spent 17 years at Glencairn, Chardonnay became part of my blood. It was, it's obviously one of the strongest products for Glencairn. And so Chardonnay is for me very important in my business. And I started, like I said, in the beginning of 2017. I had my sort of entry level, I've got 2 ranges. So I've got my entry level or mid range called Cluster Series, which was a Chardonnay from Pekingese Kloof. Well, the first year was actually from Elgin, and then the 17 is from Pekingese Kloof. And a Cab, which the initial vintage was Paarl, and now it's Stellenbosch. And then my second range is the Focal Point wines. And those are very more site specific as well, with a Chardonnay from a region called Vermaaklikheid. I'm sure you've heard of it. They're near Riversdale on the Duivenhoek River. And then a Cinsault, which I did in 2017, which was Stellenbosch. In 2018 is Achterperl, beautiful bushvine stuff. And then an old wine Shannon from a block in Paarl, as old as me. I was born in 1977, so it's a 43-year-old vineyard. And my philosophy is, look, keep things simple. It's interesting. I always dealt with, you get all the smokers coming to sell you additives and barrels and staves and this and that. And I believe that wine is a natural product. If you have good grapes, you can bring all the flavors you need direct from the vineyard by not having to add anything that you would maybe see in a cooperative situation. I do use cultivated yeast with my Chardonnay because Chardonnay is a neutral variety. So I do experiment with different yeast strains. But otherwise, a lot of my stuff is also natural fermentation. But people must forget, people talk about natural wines, yeast is natural. So whether it's cultivated by Anchor, as long as it's not a GMO, it is the same thing as a natural yeast, but it's just been gone through a process where it is more active than the natural ones. But there's definitely differences in that, and I'd like to get diversity in my Chardonnay to get different flavor components out of it from the yeast and from the barrels.
Very interesting. You mentioned that you're looking at wines from different areas and specifically wines that are, grapes that come from a specific place. Can you explain to us what Cape Sites is and how that works?
It's called Cape Site Specific. It's a group that we started, me and probably about eight producers at the time. It was more about sharing a standard Cape wine, but as we know, wine is sold by stories and philosophies and that. And what we put together is a group that believe in wines with a sense of place. So to be part of this group, your wines have to qualify for their origins. So you can't have wines from Western Cape or blended between Paarl and Stellenbosch. The minimum criteria is that it must be at least wine of origin Stellenbosch, but the best thing is to go from there to Ward to as close as you can to single vineyard. So I have a wine that comes from a single vineyard, not it's not been certified yet for the 2019, the 2020 vintage. It's a single vineyard, which is that old vine Shannon and I was talking about. So the more specific you get and the more driven to the site is the story. So we're now on our 4th year together. Very different under the circumstances with COVID. We're all working from home and talking to each other. It's funny, the winemakers are always very social people, and I actually went out yesterday to go and do something, but we don't see each other as much as we did in the past. But yeah, we're all like-minded and like to have wines with a sense of place. That's the most important message that we're trying to push through into the market.
So Cape Sites, is that official? Is that an organization with a brand? Is it branded, certified? Is it a non-profit? How does it work?
It's called Cape Site Specific, and it's set up as a company, as an organization, and we all of us pay a fee to be part of it. And if we want to do an event, then it's like pay as you go, in whether you want to do it or not. And look, the idea for us is actually sort of to have a good pool of money from all of us together, and then to invite people from overseas and sort of work together with Warsaw to create content. Like the Swartland has done really, really well. Like, you need to create content in the industry to be able to tell your stories and that. So that's how it's been driven. It's not about making money. It's just about making it operate under our membership fees and what we're willing to take part in as a member.
So are the wines labeled in some way so that you can see it? How does the consumer know this comes, or is it how does that work at the moment?
We haven't gotten to that stage yet where we have a seal or something. It's not like the Old Vines group yet. But you bring up a good point. We don't have anything specifically on our labels yet that mention that. It's more about the events that we do together. But yeah, that is something we should look at maybe is to add something onto the bottle that can at least bring you to the website to understand our philosophies, and that's similar to the wine seal, the certification seal. Not everybody, we in the industry know what it stands for, but even the well-known wine drinker with knowledge doesn't fully understand what even the seals that we have on the labels actually represent. But that's all about getting the message out there, and that's yeah.
It's like you say, it's creating content and raising awareness. It's like anything, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, okay, your wines, where are you selling? Are you selling in the local market only? Are you exporting? How do you work?
I think we all know that the South African market is pretty flooded. I think if you think now, I think the latest number here is 6,000 different wines available under different brands and that type of thing. So my focus was really to drive the international market side, so my wines are local and international, but I'm really pushing on the export side. I export to Belgium, Mauritius, UK, trying to get into Holland, America I'm still working on. But yeah, export is important, but then local as well. But obviously being a small independent producer, I'm not going to be selling at the macros and doing pellet deals and that type of thing. So it's more your independent. So the well-known guys like Wine Menu up in Joburg, all the wine concept stores down here, 1 or 2 liquor cities, the well-known one in Claremont, Liquor City, he's got best range of wines, largest range of wines and all sorts of things. So he's always keen to take on new wines. And then obviously direct consumers, where we and any winery makes the best margins is with, if you have a cellar door or do events that you drive your direct sales, which is something I'm very much focusing on, which I think we all are now in this COVID thing, is that online wine sales have increased dramatically, and online wine shops, just trying to push those sales that you're not getting in the restaurants anymore, or the reduction of availability in the liquor stores, and only having a 5-day, no, 4 days. You can only buy alcohol 4 days of the week. So yeah, I don't know, for the bigger guys to work out budgets and that this year, I'm glad I know I've got only a certain amount of wine to sell, but for the big boys, it's a bit scary.
Yeah, then you don't want to sit with a cellar full of wine when you get your next harvesting, right?
No, exactly. Yeah.
I think what's interesting to me is that you mentioned direct to consumer, which you're right. It's growing a lot, but also you said events. So do you do pop-up tastings?
Yeah, I actually had just started that just before the lockdown. I did my first one at the winery where I buy the Chenin from. Then my idea was to do it at certain, either to use a restaurant or certain of the guys like the Sommelier Association in Stellenbosch, or a wine bar somewhere that uses my wines and that. So that was the idea, is once a month to do like a pop-up tasting, but that's all gone at the moment. So we don't know when we can all have a glass of wine together with a meal, or get together to do a tasting. So yeah, that is the way. I haven't been doing a lot of online Zoom meeting tastings, that type of thing. It's very difficult to do that as well. You can't drop everybody a bottle of wine. We're at Cape Side specifically trying to figure out, well, let's take a 750ml bottle and put it into 50ml little bottles and send it out, and you do a group tasting with someone. But it's logistics and timings and all of that. And to be fair, I think people being a bit overrun with some of these things maybe. So, but yeah, it's important to get to the direct consumer.
So besides that, I see on your website you also offer a winemaking consultancy service. I was wondering about that, and also, what other services do you offer?
Yeah, there's look, because I work for myself. I'm not as hectic as when I was working at Glencola. When I left there, I think we were bottling 650,000 bottles, which keeps one very, very busy. With myself, I utilize cellar space near me here in Paarl, so that keeps me busy maybe 2-3 days of the week. Obviously, wintertime is more quiet time for winemakers. You've got everything to barrel and everything self-filled up and everything safe. So I offer, any consultancy for small guys that don't have the budget for, say, only producing 5 or 10 tons for a small guest house winery or whatever. So I can do little parcels for them if they have their own vineyards. And then obviously anything from packaging for other people that are looking for a winemaker that can do everything from finding bulk wines, doing bottling for them, and so on. It hasn't been such an active part of my business, but there's sort of 2-3 people that I have as a concern that I do this for now, which is great. It sort of just puts a little bit more into the bank account without having to sell wine.
Interesting. So you've mentioned the coronavirus and the lockdown a bit, and I mean, it's forced all of us to actually rethink our business models. So do you have
Yeah.
any changes or new ideas that came to mind while you were sitting there in lockdown?
Yeah, look, there's again, I'm really pushing on the export side. There's one or two new opportunities coming my way, which will really help, because obviously we for 2 months couldn't sell anything here locally, but like in the UK, there's online companies that have been selling throughout the lockdown, and it's business for them for the last 3-4 months. So people not going out, but people ordering wine, and we weren't able to do that. So there is definitely a demand and a bit of a gap. Unfortunately, some people did lose the business due to those 2 months where they had potential listings with some of the larger Systembolaget in Sweden and whatever. But yeah, just really looking at again, like I said earlier, that is my model, is exporting, and just making that grow strength from strength in this environment at the moment.
So interesting to me is, you know, it's European summer now, all the whole Northern Hemisphere. And this is obviously a high consumption time. So what about logistics? If you get orders now, are you managing to get them out?
Yeah, there's in general, there is a bit of a bottleneck at the harbour. But since the export allowance was lifted, that we can export again, I actually had it. Yeah, I sent some wine to Belgium, and yeah, it took the usual 3-week turnaround. It wasn't too bad. Obviously, if you want to still get into that rosé season for the UK, you want the stuff on the water now before their season stops. So I don't know. I don't do rosé yet. I'm looking at doing it possibly next year. But yeah, our timings have been out because specifically those 2 months where we were not allowed to export. Definitely certain products, but if you think of some of the beers and sort of ciders and things like that, they've lost a huge chunk of business because you've now something that should have been there 2 months ago is 2 months behind. So it's not easy.
Yeah, by the time it gets there, it's winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Starts. So yeah, that is the issue. So okay,
Yeah.
I mean, you've had an interesting journey in the wine industry. What is the most important thing that you've learned so far from your wine journey?
Look, the thing is that there's a lot of competition. That's I did know that before I started my own business. It's anyone. Winemakers can make wine, and we all can make wine, or estates can make wine, but it's another thing to sell it. It's a big part of our industry is marketing and being out there. So that's really been, it's not I'd say a life lesson in the wine industry. It's definitely, I've known it as a learning curve that you're going to be marketing all the time. But I won't regret having gotten into the industry over 20. When are we on? My first vintage I did was in '96. So yeah, it's a long time. I've been in Paarl for 20 years. And me and my wife have now actually decided to move to a cooler area. And I think it's also more maybe part of my Chardonnay campus going on. We're going to be moving to Onrus, and I'll look at some area there to higher space and really look at cooler climate Chardonnay from Elgin or the Cape South Coast, getting a bit closer to for Markleigate, so I don't have to drive as far to get the grapes. And yeah, we'll hire over there for a year and see if it works. Our daughter is not old enough to get into school. Actually, I mean, she's still young enough before she needs to start anything. And yeah, I've got good friends there. Hannes Storm, obviously the Finnersons from Creation, I know well. So if they can do it, I'm sure it's possible. So that's the next hopefully the next 20 years in my wine journey.
Well,
At that.
I just wanted to ask you that because, I mean, you're still young and your business is even younger. So what is your long-term vision? Where are you going to take Larman Wines? What is your plan?
Obviously to make it as profitable as possible. What I've actually done with my packaging is, if you look at the labels, it's very much driven on the names. So you got focal point, Chardonnay, variety from a specific region, and then the cluster series, which means cluster obviously means a bunch of grapes. So I need one berry can be perfect, but you need a whole cluster to fill a glass of wine, and even more so to fill a bottle. So I use my name to endorse my wines, but I think what my plan is in the next 20 years is that if I can push these wines, get the brands strong enough out there that they can actually be freestanding brands on their own, that I don't sell my name, but I can sell those brands to someone who's interested in increasing the size of it. Or I'd have to see if my daughter wants to get into wine, but she's only 3, so I'm not going to push her on whether she's going to be in my footsteps. But
it sounds like in your family, you have to start drinking at 7, right, to be a winemaker. To be a winemaker at 16.
No. So we'll see. But hopefully. Yeah, obviously we all want to put food on our plates and have a comfortable life. And the wine industry can do that if you just keep your nose to the grindstone, create quality wines that people enjoy, and look at old vines as becoming quite a strong marketing part of South Africa, and maybe get more involved in that, looking at different regions. If you look at Chris Arlight, he lives in that area that I'm talking about, Onrus, but he's buying grapes from all the way up in Pekingese Kloof and all over. So he's also a bit more multi-regional. So that's the different side of being sort of the old 1980s landgoed or estate wines. But we'll see what happens in 20 years. We can have this conversation in 5 or 10 years from now again. It doesn't have to be that long. But hopefully I'm staying on a stronger foot, or we all are.
Yes, I really hope so. Can you give us your very own wine quote? Your favorite one.
I was struggling a little bit with that. My wife, I do tend to have a good sense of humor sometimes. Obviously, Chardonnay is a very big part of me, and there was that time when I was traveling in the US. Or actually, it's the US is part of the problem, is that they were making these heavy Chardonnays, over wooded, over full malolactic fermentation, too much butternage. They made these wines that were so planky and dry that you need like 3 glasses of water with a glass of wine. And there was a stage that I'm sure you know of called ABC, anything but Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to see, which I did in the years of Glencairn, is reduce the wood. It needs to be part of it, but create wines with a bit more finesse. Even more so now, working with this Vermakelijkheid stuff, where it's on strong limestone soils, 8 kilometers as a crow flies to the sea, making Chardonnays with finesse and changing the ABC, anything but Chardonnay, to always buy Chardonnay.
There we go. I like that.
So that's what I'm going for.
That's your quote. Always buy Chardonnay. I love it. So, thank you very much for spending the time here. Our listeners are sitting here and they want to get hold of you, want to order your wines. How do they do that?
There's a couple of options now. Obviously, directly from me, it's www.larmanwines.com is the website. And then all the outlets I mentioned earlier. And then also recently just started with Shopstar. That's also the online way to get it. And I do tend to do my own delivery still at the moment. So if you do buy, and you might actually still get to meet the winemaker dropping the wine themselves. So, but yeah, maybe direct is probably best. So look at larmanwines.com and click on to the order sheet, and me or my wife will email within a day usually, and then get the wines out. Depending on this lockdown, because you're not allowed to move it around after Thursday, but usually if one orders on a Monday, Tuesday, you'll still get it before you can't have it on Thursday after evening at 5 o'clock or whatever.
I think what you're talking about now is obviously within striking distance of Paul. What happens if people order from the outskirts of the country or even in Gauteng? How do you manage that?
Well, look, Gauteng is courier service, and that's I would say with the lockdown rule. Otherwise, recommend them going to the likes of wine. One or two guys are there, but the best is Dry Dock Liquors as well. They also have more wines. You can still do a week's turnaround. Once you start moving out the country, maybe more like 2 weeks and that type of thing.
Okay, awesome. Arco, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. We'll put all the links down in the description. And yes, I'm sure people will find this interesting. Good luck with everything you're doing. And with your move to Honors. And thanks for chatting to us. And we'll definitely chat again in future.
Perfect. No, thanks for your time as well. And hopefully, I was seeing some of my wine friends yesterday. We're saying we're only going to get together at a restaurant when they allow us to have a glass of wine again. I don't know who's going to go out to a steakhouse or something and sit and drink a Diet Coke or something. You need that glass of wine or a beer, that thing. So I'm hoping for the restaurant side that this rule will be lifted quite soon as well.
Well, even worse, who goes to a wine estate and don't drink wine if you go out for lunch?
Yeah, yeah, shame. That's the thing, is even if I was at Glencarlo 2 weeks ago, yeah, they're also saying that they probably won't open the restaurant until they have got full option for people to be able to drink wines on the premises.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, eh?
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description.
Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to influencers and leaders in the wine industry, winemakers, restaurants, and other businesses. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you do not miss out. Now, to get on with the show. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, I'm speaking to Carolyn Miller-Kroch of Zevenwacht. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Will. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Enjoying the time to be able to chat to lots of people, using the time productively yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been good. I've spent some precious time with my daughter. I travel a lot, so this has been a time to catch up and just have some good family times. But it's been good, and obviously having a little bit of wine on the side helps too.
That's always awesome when working for a wine business, right?
Yes.
Tell us a bit about yourself and how you became involved with the wine industry.
Well, currently I'm the National Sales Manager for Zevenwacht Wine Estate. I've been in the industry now for going on 21 years. I think the wine industry almost found me by coincidence. When I was studying, I decided to work at Constantia Wine Estate, just as a sideline job while I was studying. So I was in the cellar door and I did cellar tours and listening to the senior staff and listening to the winemakers, the bug really bit. So growing up in a family that always enjoyed wine and always used to sip along with my mum and my dad, but never really understanding what it was all about. And I think from those Constantia days, I decided I'm going to follow the wine path and see where it takes me, and here I am today.
Amazing. Were your studies related to wine at all?
Well, I actually started off with law and then proceeded to move into marketing and public relations. So it was an interesting combination. And then subsequently, I did my Cape Wine Academy diploma. So it started off in a very different level, and then I made a kind of move into which would be more relevant on the wine side.
Wow, amazing. How long have you been with Zevenwacht?
I started last year, March, so just over a year now.
And before that?
Before that, I was at Thelema Mountain Vineyards, and then I was at Distel, Kleine Zelze, Steenberg, Glencarlu. So some really amazing names that I can, add to my CV.
Well, that's amazing. So Zevenwacht itself, can you tell us a little bit more about the history of Zevenwacht?
Yes, of course. Zevenwacht actually has a wonderful history, steeped in a lot of interesting tradition. And the property itself has always been on the farming side. And then probably in about, I think it was about 1903, they discovered cassiterite, which is the raw ore that is made into tin. So the mine was basically built. So there's still the original winch and boiler on the farm today, and we actually still have the shafts on the farm, hence why one of our tiers is called the Tin Mine Range. And then that ended probably just before World War I, and it went back into farming. Then in about 1992, Harold and Denise Johnson bought the farm as a going concern. So it was already planted out to vineyards. But what Harold and Denise then decided to do is upgrade the entire facility. So there was a lot of vineyards that were pulled out and replanted. So effort was put into understanding our true terroir and what really suits our farm. We're in a wonderfully unique position. So, and we're very much driven towards a Sauvignon Blanc because of where we are situated. And that went right through to the vinicultural side too, and looking at the cellar and seeing, best practices. So that's a bit of background on who we are. So Zevenwacht actually is a Dutch word, and it means 7 expectations.
7 expectations, right? Talking about expectations, what can the guest expect or experience when visiting your estate?
So we are very fortunate to have a beautifully sized estate. And there's so much that you can do on it. For those who haven't been to Zevenwacht, I think to drive in through those gates, and the first thing you see is just beautiful vineyards, and you drive down this oak-lined road, and that will give you of what to expect. So we see ourselves as a lifestyle estate, and we encourage people to visit our farm, not just to taste wine, but come and jog on the farm. And we've got mountain bike courses. There's a 4x4 course, which the 4x4 club manages. Just simply enjoying our conservancy and and nature itself. And then over and above that, we obviously have our wine tasting center. So, and there are different choices that you can to choose to enjoy our wine. So whether it's a cheese and wine pairing, whether it's a chocolate and wine pairing, or it's simply you just choosing which wines you would like to taste. We also have a restaurant, and part of that restaurant is our picnic area. So our restaurant is very much towards South African style cooking with a nice twist. Chef Henna heads up the kitchen. We have lovely reviews that come through from that side. We obviously then also have our country inn. There's 13 rooms in total. We have Bequena Spa that forms part of the enjoyment of the farm with gorgeous views. Yeah, so there's quite a few choices to be made when visiting Zevenwacht.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it seems to me like there's been a progression in your tourism from just first it started off with wine tasting and then into a concept called wine tourism, and now you've got it seems like everybody's going into a complete package of a sort of lifestyle tourism offering in the winelands. Do you offer anything like lifestyle packages where people can do that type of bookings where they come for a certain time with all kinds of stuff included, that type of thing?
Yes, most definitely. You'll see now, specifically going into the quieter months, never mind the fact that we're overcoming quarantine, but traditionally going into winter, we generally come out with very nice packages. So it's like a eat, sleep, stay concept, stay for 2 nights. It includes dinner at the restaurant, a spa package with a wine tasting. So we do a collaborative effort with all the entities on our farm, so people can truly get a full experience of what we can offer and see how beautiful the farm itself is. Once you're on Zevenwacht, there's no reason why you have to even leave, if you're there for a couple of days.
That's true, and your location is very nice as well, close to the airport and close to the rest of our experience in the winelands.
Exactly, yeah. I know we nicely, so we still form part of the Stellenbosch wine route, so we on the Stellenbosch side, but the nice thing is, like you said, conveniently close to the airport and surrounded by amazing other farms too, to form part of that route,
Well, on that point, on the airport side is, I see you've got a conferencing and event team as well, or you are offering that you have.
Yes.
I suppose that's something that you specifically look to build during the winter months to fight this whole tourism winter.
Most definitely. We are very reliant on the corporates to assist us through the quieter months. So we have lovely conferencing packages on offer, again, including the different entities on the farm. And then we also advocate for functions and weddings. So if you are interested, I would suggest anyone visiting our website and linking through to our banqueting team for functions and weddings, and through to our hotel team to assist with conferencing.
Oh, that's awesome. So now the important stuff. Tell us a bit more about the wines you are producing, and also the Zevenwacht winemaking philosophy.
So our philosophy, and I think we're probably not the only one, but it's something that we live true to, is that wine making in essence starts in the vineyard, as we all know. And the wonderful thing is, again, going back to who Zevenwacht is from a position point of view. So we are positioned at quite a high altitude, and we have influences both from Table Bay and False Bay from a sea influence that cools down the vineyards completely, especially in our hot Stellenbosch summers. With that said, most of our vineyards are also south to southwest facing. So that also assists from that intense heat. We find that we can have longer hang time, for example, for the grapes. We also have a lovely soil structure, mostly decomposed granite. Like I said, we focus, our biggest plant planted to vine is our Sauvignon Blanc. One of the few Sauvignon Blancs that I think when you actually have, you can enjoy the lack of huge amounts of acidity. You don't need the Rennies while you're drinking it, you know. And that obviously comes along with all the elements that make up to where we can get a beautiful, well-structured wine in general going across all our cultivars, really. So Haugen Viljoen is our cellar master, and he's been with us now just over about 1.5 years. And he very much loves focusing on, because of where we are again, on the Rhone cultivars, specifically our Syrah. And then also we have an old vine Chenin Blanc on our farm. So that's become a large focus of ours too. And Chardonnay. So those are basically the 3 cultivars that we can see formulating with where we are from a placement point of view as our focus wines, you know.
Oh, that's amazing. So your wines, Carolyn, where are they sold? I see you're exporting worldwide. Tell us a bit more about your markets. We
are. So luckily for that, and one of the great advantages of working with this brand, we have 4 different tiers to the wine. So we have from our Z collection range, which is our top tier, right through to our lifestyle range, which is our sevens range. And with that, and obviously a few in between, like our tin mine and our estate. So with that said, it's so great to be able to target different markets with the different tiers. The majority of our market sits in our own backyard. We have a huge national presence, of which the majority of that sits in Cape Town. And then, yes, we have a global stance as well. Our biggest markets are Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, UK. And with that said, you know, we are spreading as much as possible. So yes, we are in America, we're in Canada, we're working on towards getting into Asia, and I am personally working on spreading our wings throughout Africa too, because what we've seen is that there is a larger request for well-priced premium South African wines in other African countries. So that's one of our biggest 2020 projects.
That's very, very interesting. Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support our country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation. www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show. With the local market, I assume that that is going to be, especially with the current situation, that's going to be extremely important when things get back to normal. Are you doing anything specific? I mean, your local market, if you say Cape Town, I assume that's mostly restaurants, or that also retail stores?
Yeah, I think that whole question of what is the new normal is a very interesting one, and it's a big concern across the entire industry. You know, the restaurant and hotel industry is so closely aligned to the wine industry, and I'm on quite a few different chat groups, and it's very interesting to see what people want to do from an initiative point of view. So yes, there are going to be huge amounts of changes. To be honest with you, I think for at least the rest of 2020, people are going to be very aware of the fact of remaining with the whole social distancing, staying more to themselves, keeping at home. So from an off-con perspective, so from a retailer perspective, and an online sales perspective for home deliveries. So, for example, we've just started our own online wine shop from Zevenwacht. That is advantageous for us. That, we can see huge growths forthcoming after, quarantine. But on the other hand, sadly, the restaurants and hotels are really going to suffer. So collectively, we've been sitting together as an industry and coming up with initiatives that we can put forward and assist. And what do we do? We have to reach the consumer, assist with them coming into a restaurant, be aware that obviously, again, tables will have to be far apart. There's going to be huge amounts of sanitization going on. There's going to be less people being able to sit in a restaurant. How can we help them? Is it from a discount structure? Is it from getting an initiative to assist with a group funding? So yeah, there's a lot under discussion. What is viable and what isn't, time will tell. But we will be in this together, and we stand together.
Well, I mean, that's the message I get from everybody I'm talking to in the industry. Everybody's working together and rethinking basically their business model. Is there anything else that you have in mind? I mean, of course, wine sales is one aspect of your business. The big advantage of a place like yourself is that you have an outside experience as well, which means social distancing is a bit easier. And I think people will be more keen to go to outside spaces than maybe in inside spaces.
Definitely. So again, it's a bit of a tough time, with us going into cooler weather. For those who are, prepared to carry on running through the wine farm. Every day when I arrive at the farm, it's so wonderful to see groups of people arriving to do the jog around the farm or the mountain biking trails and stuff. So obviously that will still remain open. And, from a health perspective, it's wonderful to be able to get out there once we've all been, feels like, the four walls, clawing down the four walls, getting some fresh air and exercise. But we will have to maintain, as much as we see ourselves as a wine brand, we also have a restaurant and a hotel on a farm too. Yeah. So we kind of have a foot on both sides. So we will have to look at different ways of encouraging people to enjoy our facilities, but being aware of, what, like I said before, the new normal is going to be. So that, yeah, we've had conversations. We'll sit down, in a group and have larger discussions of the next 12 to 24 months and where we can assist the best we can. And that goes, I think, from a global discussion. It's not just South Africa. So it's going to be a very interesting rollout. And to be honest, I think time will tell. We can put initiatives in place and it will be adjusted and changed. We'll literally have to be able to go with the flow and be flexible, you know.
It's going to be interesting times. Carolyn, I see Zevenwacht is a member of this BWI, the Biodiversity and Wine Initiative. What does that mean?
Yes. So we actually, again, like I mentioned, we are very lucky to have a fairly big farm. 100 hectares are under vine, but then what we've done is actually, so from about 2009, apologies, we became a member of the BWI. What we've done is we've put 80 hectares of a very special biome aside called Renosterveld. So it's under a lot of stress. There's very little Renosterveld left within the Western Cape. And through a conservancy as part of the Butler-Ray Conservancy, so it's ourselves and our neighbors that have put a certain amount of hectares of Renosterveld aside. That obviously encourages soil health, protection of birds of prey and smaller mammals. You know, we've got about 150 to 200 different species of flora. So it's just assisting and having that balance between the farming factor and the mother nature factor, and making sure we're not intruding and not being greedy as to, you know, what we need to do to make sure everything is looked after efficiently and sufficiently. And it's also about farming methods, you know, ensure that we're not using anything that's going to affect the natural flora and fauna, and just be careful how we manage what we do use in the vineyards and so on and so forth. So keep it as natural as possible.
Well, I think this is a growing trend worldwide, and especially your new markets, your millennials, your new, you know, they are, seems to me,
Yes,
they're more interested in this type of thing than in the old, you know, traditional wine history and that type of stuff.
completely agree. And it's quite interesting when you speak to the Nordic countries. One of the first questions is around, you know, the conservancy and how we protect our farms and how we look after, you know, flora and fauna, going through into how our people are looked after too. And the other question is whether we vegan as well. So those are two very definite trends coming out, and we can happily say we are now vegan. We're offering vegan wines. We've walked away from all animal products within the winemaking process.
I was wondering about that. I always assumed that all wines are vegan, but now it seems to me there is a difference. So can you enlighten me a little bit more? It's quite interesting.
Sure, yeah. It's a lot of people don't really realize that, exactly as you said, we weren't vegan. But when you go into the larger process of how the wine is made, so for example, when it comes down to the filtration, so the fining of the wine, collecting the solid particles out of the juice itself, for example, we used to use certain animal products. So for example, you can actually basically use egg whites, and that almost works as like a consomme. I don't know if you know the soup consomme. So it's a clear soup, and they add the egg white to attract all the solid particles so that you end up with a beautiful, bright, clear soup. And it's exactly the same concept within the winemaking side. But obviously, it being egg white, it's, you know, it's an animal product. Mm-hmm. And there are different methodologies. I'm trying to remember the other one. I think it's called an isotope or something. It's like a fish bladder powder, something like that, that is added. But again, obviously, it's an animal product. So officially, all wines from the 2019 harvest have moved over to being vegan. So now we've moved over to different methods where we use only plant-based, or for example, bentonite clay. So there are different versions, and there's different products on the market, basically from like a starch version through to a kelp version, and like I said, like using a clay. but more and more brands are moving towards using plant-based, and it's I don't think it's just going to be fad or fashion. It's not just a trend. It's now becoming more of a way of life, a healthier.
Definitely. I mean, it's a huge trend. So Carolyn, now what I would like to hear from you personally is, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Sure. It's been a very long journey. Like 21 years later, there's a lot learned. You know, I think in the early days, the complete naivety to obviously being an older now. I don't have to give my age away.
No, man, I can hear. I can hear you're still a youngster. So stop teasing us.
Thanks, Rob. It's so sweet. But you know, for me, I think the biggest lesson I've learned, bar many others, but one that really sticks with me and which I apply to my day-to-day workings, from putting strategy together right through to when I actually am speaking to consumers at wine shows, for example, is the KISS methodology. So keep it stupid simple. You know, there's no reason to overcomplicate the way we talk about wine, for example, or strategies that we put together. At the end of the day, keep it as clear and simple as possible, that everyone can understand where we want to go and what we want to do. I think that for me has been the biggest lesson learned. And it's through trial and error, and it's through mistakes. And as you well know, we all learn from our mistakes. But if I can recommend for anyone to stick to that simplicity of understanding wine, explaining wine, you know, when you speak to your consumer at the wine show, they don't really want to know about pH, acidity, barrel ferment, malolactic fermentation. I mean, yes, you obviously have the people who will specifically ask for that, but your general wine consumer actually just enjoys that liquid in the bottle. They want to learn about your brand truth, the history, who you are sometimes, you know, and just have good, honest conversations. It doesn't have to be complicated.
I like that. So, Carolyn, can you give us your very own wine quote or a favorite wine quote?
Well, there are lots of wine quotes that I don't know if it's appropriate. I think for me, you know, wine should never be seen as an unattainable subject, whether it's from an understanding perspective or from a pricing perspective. Wine shouldn't be put on this pedestal, sitting at some mountaintop, you know. And we have to change the way we talk about wine, the way we express the subject. Let it be less intimidating and let it be more inclusive. So at the end of the day, I mean, I don't care how you're going to drink my wine or with what you're going to drink it. If you have chosen to buy my wine off the shelf or chosen my wine off that wine menu, I love you. Full stop, thank you, done. That's deal done. You know, that for me is just very important going into this new cycle. We have to expand our market, and it's not necessarily from a country perspective. We have to expand our drinking market, who we are talking to, who we want part of a broader conversation. And currently we aren't able to do that with the way we are expressing wine conversations and brand. It has to just be simplified, more open, more honest, less intimidating.
Very, very wise words. Carolyn, how do people, if people want to get hold of Zevenwacht, where do they find you? How do they get hold of you?
The best way is to go onto our website. All information is on there. So it's www.zevenwacht.co.za. So whether you want to speak to myself, my details are there, or the office for general queries, from banqueting through to booking accommodation or wine tasting, all the information is on our website.
Okay, excellent. We'll put those links in the description. Carolyn, it's
Great.
been a pleasure to talking to you, and thank you for taking the time, and enjoy the rest of your lockdown.
Thank you, Will. It was wonderful to catch up with you, and best of luck for the lockdown to you too.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Before we start the show, I need to share something really exciting. It's called the About the Winelands pop-up. And if you want to get your customers excited about your lockdown or online specials, you need to email us right now. Email us at visitthewinelands@gmail.com and add Winelands pop-up to the subject line. Who knows? We might just make you an offer you cannot refuse. That is visitthewinelands@gmail.com. Now, on with the show. Good day, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Lisa from Lisa Loves Wines. Welcome, Lisa, to About the Winelands.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the invite.
So, Lisa, tell me, how are you enjoying your lockdown period? Are you having a good time?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm enjoying the 2 hours extra a day. It's quite refreshing. To wake up refreshed every morning is a nice thing. I've never been a morning person, so well, that's quite nice. And otherwise, I must be honest with you, I enjoyed the time with my kids and my family. It was all an unusual experience, something we most probably will never have again. But I think it can slowly but surely come to an end now. I'd love to go walk on the beach and go back into the winelands. I miss it terribly.
So, talking about the winelands, how did you get involved in the wine industry?
I went to Stellenbosch University.
Oh, that's a good way to start, right?
Yes, I think so too. Yes, a university in the winelands. So it's everyone was sort of involved in the wine industry. No, seriously, I at that stage I was romantically involved with the person who's my husband now, and he was as a winemaker, and all the events we went to, everything was around wine, and it united us because it meant meeting people, eating great food, and having great moments together, and we just loved it. It was a nice industry to be in, and it involved and connected a lot of different types of people. So it was lovely. That's how it started. And he then moved to Germany as a flying winemaker. And after my studies, I also went to Germany and stayed there for over 18 years before coming back to South Africa. But because I studied politics and multicultural relations, my partner was stationed in a very small remote little town with only one employer, which was at that stage the largest wine producer in Europe. It was also the only place where I would be able to work. So that's how I got into the wine industry itself. I started to work for this wine producer. And then once I returned to South Africa, I that's how I created Lisa Loves Wines. I started Lisa Loves Wines with the experience that I had in the industry in Europe.
Well, that's awesome. So I mean, you've been in the wine industry for quite a while. So, and also I mean, you speak different language. Which languages do you actually speak?
I speak Italian, French, German, and a bit of Spanish, as well as Afrikaans. Afrikaans is my mother language.
Amazing. So,
Yeah.
Lisa Loves Wine started as a tour business, am I right?
Yes. Well, I worked in the wine industry before. So when I came back to South Africa, I initially looked for work in the industry. But it really bothered me to think that I would be spending so much time in an office under a roof within four walls, or traveling again, which I didn't want to travel again at that stage. I wanted to stay put. So, it started by chance, really, as it so often does. And one tour guide actually in a coffee shop recommended an institute where I could get myself qualified. And that's where I started to freelance as a tour guide. And I then started Lisa Loves Wines as a company offering wine tours because that was inevitably my background. And I just enjoyed it so much to be back in South Africa and the winelands. I wanted to share this joy, Often people who live in their own country, inhabitants or locals of such absolute beauty, are sometimes oblivious. They're oblivious to the grandiose mountain backdrops, the sea views, the landscape, the wildlife, and that you can enjoy all of this while softly sipping wine in the sun. I mean, it's like gorgeous, it's simply stunning. So I wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to experience it more. And but the wine tours, they were just the start of it all. Lisa Loves Wine's goal is to be a platform where people can connect and learn, and a platform where there is a cultural exchange, and enjoying authentic cultural experiences. So that's the beginning of Lisa Loves Wines, was actually just showing the world what the Cape is all about. But in the future, I hope to show the Cape what the world is all about in terms of wine. So that's the next challenge. You can watch the space.
Well, that's interesting. So, Lisa, what makes your, I mean, why would I come on your wine tour? What makes your wine tours different to other people's wine tours?
Well, they're very personal. They're authentic. They're in the tourist's home language. And Lisa Loves Wines can relate back to the tourists in the term that the tourist might understand and know, because of my experience in Europe and the mindset of the European consumer, and also the wine consumer, in which I work, in a milieu in which I worked, and as a brand manager and in marketing and sales. So it's a different type of tour if you can relate back to where the tourist comes from. No.
Well, that's interesting. So, are you currently, when people come on the tour, do you personally take them on the tour?
Yeah. Yes, at this stage I do it personally. Well, at the moment not, because of the virus. Funnily enough, the virus is, well, my industry is wine and tourism, and both of them are pretty much kaput now in lockdown. But when I do tours, I do it personally. It's all hands-on. And yes, what people appreciate is the knowledge of wines. Yeah, as I said, in the language of origin, and the personal nature. I think people appreciate an authentic experience. And I also visit wineries that not one of the mill wineries, smaller wineries, or just unknown wineries. Each winery has a story to tell. So that's what makes it a bit different.
Well, that's very nice. I mean, that's our aim is to tell the story of the wine. Yeah.
I quickly want to share something exciting. I have heard via the grapevine that the Fishwives Club will be launching a new lifestyle club soon. If you have not heard of the Fishwives Club yet, just know that you're probably missing out on the sexiest wine label out there. To stay in the loop, please quickly go and follow them on Instagram. The Instagram handle is @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Let me repeat that, @thefishwivesclublifestyle. Now, on with the show.
So, Lisa, in terms of any other services you offer or you're
Yes,
planning to
yes.
offer, can you expand on that now, or are you going to keep it a secret to a later date?
It's a little bit, well, it's a little bit fresh,
Okay.
but I'm super excited about it. So I'm going to reveal it. I would like to offer a platform for other wines, for people in Cape Town who are interested in wines. I find that there's a lack of accessible European and other world wines in South Africa, and I would like that will be my next project, because I'm literally sitting at the source of a whole network of producers in the world that offer wonderful value for money and are unknown. And I think the South African wine connoisseur is appreciative enough of good quality wines that do not need to be a brand or a well-known brand or wine. I think South African palates are evolved enough to be able to appreciate lesser known, good value for money wines. And I would like to import these and offer a platform not only to taste the wines, but to experience them as a cultural offering, with food, and still want to see how it develops with maybe, for example, if you do sherry, then you might have a flamenco player, or you do sort of a pop-up system where you, for 1 month, you showcase sherry and the region sherry and the culture of sherry, the food of Jerez, and the next month you do the south of France, but with brands that you might not know and are still great value for money. I look forward to partner with someone in the future and offer this right here, and especially now after Corona, where people might not be able to or do not want to travel to these countries, offering them right here, these experiences right here might be very interesting.
I just wanted to ask you about that. I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I wondered if you're planning collaboration with some local partners or even other producers locally. That I think personally that for somebody here in South Africa to appreciate their own produce and our own wines, we need to expand our horizons and taste other stuff as well. So yeah, I think that is absolutely a fantastic idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no with other individuals, yes, but not with wineries at this stage. No.
Okay, that's
interesting.
Because
I would be strictly speaking not a competition to them, but it would also be well, funnily enough, the winemakers in the region, all the people, the producers in the region, they all import wines from all over the world to be able to benchmark their own product. Because that's the one thing that's missing in South Africa, is that we have everything, in European countries, or in Germany, where I lived before, you have everything on offer. You have every country on offer, and the countries compete with one another on the shelf. Whereas here, we only have, generally speaking, South African wines, and I think people are open to new tastes and new backgrounds and new cultures. And it's just a question of getting the right entry point, because there's a misconception that overseas wines are extremely expensive, but that is, in fact, because it's always the brands that we see, and not necessarily the plain run-of-the-mill wines that are excellent quality and good value for money. And this is what I would like to showcase.
Well, that's amazing. So, Lisa, as a wine tour guide, and also with your business, Lisa Love Wines, and your presence online, you're becoming an influencer in the wine industry. So if a wine producer or a wine estate is sitting there and thinking, I want to get more people to me, how do they get your attention? What do they need to do?
there's it's so easy, you know, all producers are unique. They all offer a story to tell, and I enjoy hearing all of them. My main media platform is Instagram at the moment. I just enjoy the simplicity of pictures, videos, and a few words. And this is the thing that I particularly, as you know, as with people, wineries, producers, each winery or producer has a specific angle and a specific story to tell, and I think that I'm quite good at finding that story and portraying it, it's an authentic story, not necessarily that which most marketers tap into, where you need a lot of money. I don't believe in that. I believe in finding that story or that angle which everyone has, because all wineries are unique, all producers are unique. Finding that story, and it's not an expensive thing, and then to speak of that and reveal that to the world. And I think that's what makes Lisa Loves Wines unique, is the capacity to see that in a producer or in a winery.
That sounds awesome. So you've mentioned the coronavirus, and you know, like you said, it forces everyone to rethink their business models. I like your idea of you know, bringing the world to South Africa.
Yeah.
Do you have any other changes or ideas for your business in mind? And do you have any ideas for maybe for your producers as well, on what they can do while they, you know, stuck in a system where they can't really accept visitors to their place?
You know, I think this is a wonderful opportunity to engage with your customers, with your public, in an interesting, well, as I always say it again, but in an authentic manner, to find your what is your unique offering, and that I find very important for all producers, is to find that and to showcase it. But the way that the world of tourism will change, at least, is that I think we're going to have to focus a lot on local tourism and engage our own people, you know, and that's going to be important for wineries and producers to find a way how to attract them. I envisage like family reunion packages, you know, where people can come out to the winelands, to a place that they maybe don't know, and sit around a fire and drink wine and enjoy each other's company as a family, where they feel safe and secure. And that's going to be very important after the corona, that people feel safe and feel that things are clean, and that it's, they can be sure that the chances are very small that they will contract the virus, because that's something that's on everyone's mind.
Awesome. That sounds like a very good idea. So, Lisa, your wine journey has been interesting. So what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
That most people in the world have the same idea about life, love, and laughter. We can all sit around a table, enjoy each other's company, all of us, mostly. It's rare that people are utterly unenjoyable. All we need is a table and a glass of wine and a platform to connect.
That's interesting. So on that note, can you give us your very own wine quote?
Yes. Wine and vines are very much like people. Those that struggle or make an effort in life are far more interesting and have more character than those who do not.
Awesome.
That's my finding. Yes.
That's very good. Lisa, if people want to get hold of you, how do they find Lisa Loves Wines? How do they find you?
On Instagram, on Facebook, those are the platforms that I am keeping up to date. I'm restructuring my website, as everyone else is doing in the corona time. And my website will be live within the next month. I'll have my new website out.
Awesome. We'll put all the links down in the description. Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time speaking to us, and I'm sure our listeners will find this interesting.
Yes, thank you.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I know you're busy, so thank you for the
Excellent.
time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every week for our latest episode. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Gerard van der Walt. Gerard is the CEO of Paardeberg Winery. Welcome to About the Winelands, Gerard.
Thank you, Will. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning.
No, it's our pleasure to have you, and thank you for taking the time. I know you guys are busy.
Yeah, of course, the world is upside down, and we have to deal with what we've been given. So we are making all sorts of plans to see this through and make sure that we're continuing in business, but it certainly is a busy time.
So Gerard, what would be interesting is if you could tell our listeners how you got involved in, a bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry.
Sure. It started many, many years ago. So after I completed my articles, I decided to leave auditing. And I started as a financial accountant in the old Stellenbosch Farmers Winery. That was 1989. So I guess you can call me a veteran of 31 years in the wine business. And yeah, through starting at SFW, I worked in different departments, finance, and then later on into corporate strategy. Eventually, it took me to the US, where I launched Savannah Cider in the US for SFW. But at the same time, that's when SFW and Distillers Corporation formed Distel. So I really went over under the Distel banner. And then shortly after that, they asked me to run the European operations for Distel, sales marketing operation from London. And that's where I spent a number of years before I returned back to Cape Town, back into a strategy role at the head office of Distel in Stellenbosch. Yeah, so I left Distel, I think it was just 2 or 3 years after returning back from overseas. And for the last 10 years, I've been at Paardenberg, where I'm the CEO and looking after the business development for the company. So yeah, that's from a business point of view. But just from a personal point of view, I can tell you that I've got 5 kids, all from the same wife, and the youngest is 12.
Wow.
So yeah, I need to work for at least 10 more years, but I really don't mind, because I think the wine industry is great fun, and I love going to work every day.
Where in the US were you stationed?
I lived in Boston, and yeah, so we took the family over to Boston. We were there for quite a short period of time, because the merger of SFW and Distillers dictated the process, and yeah, I had to after about 8 months, I think 9 months, I had to move to London. So it was a short stay in the US, but utterly enjoyable.
Okay, interesting. So Paardenberg Wines, can you share a bit of the history of the cellar and the winery?
Sure. Well, we started in 1941, so next year Paardenberg will be what you can call an octogenarian in years, but we are going to be as fit and as nimble and with it as a 21-year-old, because we are still very innovative and progressive in our thinking and the way that we drive the business. But it started in 1941 with a person by the name of Jan Rousseau, who got together with a couple of farmers in the area near the Paardenberg or Paardenberg, and he decided to form a cooperative and appoint their own winemaker, to basically achieve better pricing for themselves on a collective basis. So we adopted the name Paardenberg, as we are at the foothills of the Paardenberg mountain. There's a bit of an anomaly. If you just look at our logo, we have a zebra. So just to clear that up, the Dutch, when they looked at these quaggas walking on the Paardenberg mountain, they said that's one wilde paard, one wild horse. Yeah, so we decided to keep the zebra, and yeah, so that's really something that distinguishes us, make us very recognizable. You'll see that through all our products and everywhere in our media. So since 1941, Paardenberg has been quite innovative. We, I think, was one of the first people to really appoint a viticulturist in those days. But I think we really were put on the map by somebody by the name of Joseph Huskinson, who was a winemaker at Paardenberg for 38 years. And he was trained under Günter Brösel at Niederberg. So he brought a whole lot of knowledge to Paardenberg and really put us on the map in terms of winemaking. And then from there on, yeah, it just progressed. Nowadays, we are what we call a group of companies, where we have 2 facilities that process grapes. One at Paardenberg in the Paarl area, and then the other one at Bottleray in Stellenbosch. We're also renting another facility from Boland in Paarl. So we have got quite a diverse and big business. We have 32 shareholders, so all producers from the area, and they supply us with grapes on a contractual basis. But Paardenberg is very brand focused. So what we've done is we've invested a tremendous amount in barrel space and small batch processing. So a lot of our brands are managed like an estate, if I can call it that way, from the vineyard, very intense vineyard management, right through to the cellar. So we have brands, we sell also wines to other brand owners. And then we've got some distribution company in South Africa. So it's quite a diverse organization at this point in time.
It sounds fascinating. Have you guys followed the trend in the 90s by changing from a members cooperative to a private company then as well?
Yeah, I think we were probably a bit later than the rest. It was 2012 when we made the conversion. But that was just really a statutory conversion. I think in essence, or yeah, we were already operating as a market-driven organization before that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that was the actual date that we made the conversion.
So would you accept grapes also that are not from your shareholders or buy-in, or does everything come from your, your historically the farms that started Paardeberg?
Yeah, I think we've outgrown our normal supply base. So we do contract grapes in as well. But when it comes to our brands in particular, we're obviously very fussy, and we really just make sure that those are from the area. Because, and we'll talk maybe hopefully a little bit later about our winemaking philosophy and how we approach things.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think most of it is from the area.
So talking about that, I mean, you guys have expanded into more than just a winery. People can actually come there and experience things when they come to Paardeberg. So if a guest come to you, what can they expect? Or, when you are fully open for guests, what experiences do you provide?
Yeah. Well, when we are fully open, which is hopefully not too long from now, with the lockdown hopefully coming to an end soon, you can come to do some wine tasting. We've got a fantastic modern facility that we revamped, I think, about 3-4 years ago. Where you can do wine pairings. We've got some interesting stuff there. We've done some chocolate wine pairings. We've done some different Shannon expressions, a whole variety of kind of trying to be unique to our environment and what we produce, kind of tastings. We have a restaurant. It's called Eat at Paardeberg. It's run by Rob Hahn. Rob is actually a well-known guy in the area, but some interesting information about Rob is that he was actually one of the chefs that were selected at President Mandela's inauguration ceremony at the Union buildings. And wow. A few of them were handpicked, and they did a private function for him. Yeah, so Rob's got some history there. So yeah, if you want to meet the guy who cooked for Mr. Mandela, then you're welcome to come meet him at Paardeberg. There's a photo of him as well, of the event. And yeah, so we've got a restaurant. It's really a family-orientated restaurant, so very easy kind of environment. Lots of open space outside, where the children can run around a little bit and the parents can relax. We've got a jungle gym, and sometimes we also put up a jumping castle for the kids. So yeah, it's quite safe, kid friendly, and parents can relax. So yeah, good food, great wine, and then yeah, there's also some venues as well where we can do functions, and I can maybe elaborate a little bit on that if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, but I see you do weddings and other events, so I'd love to hear what you actually offer. It's always nice for people when they're looking for event venues to know what is in the area.
We've got a function hall, which can, so it's got a beautiful chandelier, a roof, chandeliers all over. The capacity is 150 for a wedding. So yeah, it's got some character as well. Beautiful wooden doors that was part of the cellar from the word go. So some old wood there, and it's got a lovely view. So a balcony as well, where you can look out over the vineyards. That's weddings, and then of course seminars. So for seminars, we can probably put in a few more people in terms of the seating, and it's quite affordable as well. So if people are interested, they're more than welcome to contact us and explore the packages that we've got for them. We have an area called the Kwacha. The Kwacha is a horseshoe-shaped tasting room where we can do bespoke tastings with a winemaker. You just book beforehand, and we can do a very specific tasting for you, and a far more in-depth for the connoisseur who wants to maybe just delve in a little bit deeper into the wines and the way that we make them. And then we also do little workshop or provide workshop venues for companies that want to maybe do team building and just break away with a small group to strategize or whatever the reason they want to just hire an outside venue. And we can couple with that, of course, some fun activities. So if you want to do the team build and a wine pairing, we will do that. And we'll do that in our dryland room, which is a modern boardroom facility. Yeah, and then, of course, what we're trying to do from time to time is also have some fun events. So about, I think it was 19, sure, I better think now. It was about 10 years ago, yeah, 9 years ago, that we started with what we call the Family Festival. We actually called it the October Festival because it was held in October, but there was no beer. But yeah, so the Family Festival is where we draw in a lot of people, and we basically just have music and eats and just a fun family day where people can relax and become very popular. So we've continued with that every year. And the Family Festival, hopefully we can hold one again this year. I'm just a bit concerned about when we will unlock for that kind of thing. But yeah, certainly. So we have that. We've expanded that. We've done the Pinotage and Biltong Festival at Paardeberg. We started last year with the Chenin Blanc Festival. And maybe just on that point, you know, Paardeberg is very well known for Chenin Blanc. It's just such a beautiful grape that is suited to our area. And that's why, you know, we call the function hall even the Chenin Blanc Hall. And we also have this Chenin Blanc Festival that we now plan to run annually.
Are these festivals organized by yourselves as principal? In other words, these are festivals that you actually originate and organize yourselves?
Yeah, the Family Festival is a self-organized festival. The Pinotage and Biltong was a festival run by an outside party. But the Chenin Blanc one, we started with using a third party just to facilitate, but we do plan to continue with that ourselves going forward. And just to make it a bit more, how can I put it, accessible for the wider wine public, we've decided to draw in other wine farms as well. So for the Chenin Blanc Festival, we'll certainly invite other Chenin producers to come and spend a day with us and also have their table where they will show their Chenin. You know, for us, it's important to show the capability and diversity of Chenin that our country can offer. You know, we've registered the trademark Home of Chenin Blanc. So we do see ourselves as the home.
Very clever.
But we don't mind sharing our home with other Chenin producers because we think that, you know, if everybody starts talking about Chenin Blanc, it's got lots of potential to become one of South Africa's signature wine varieties, next to Pinotage, of course. Yeah, so we do events, and then we've got plenty of plans just to extend the experience for visitors to our facility. It's very safe. It's completely fenced off, the whole property. Good access control, and of course nowadays very safe. Also with regards to virus, if you're worried about viruses, you know, we follow all the right protocols and make sure that people are as safe as possible.
Yeah, which is obviously important in today's environment. You mentioned the Chenin Blanc, which brings us to the wines, and you know, this is obviously the most important thing. So tell us a bit about the wines that you are producing and also your winemaking philosophy.
Sure. So I think maybe the one thing that we need to understand about our area and our wines that you will find in our brands is that it is pretty much influenced by dry land vineyards, so unirrigated vineyards, which we have a lot of. About 60% of our vineyards are not irrigated. And what we've done is we've really owned that platform as well. So if you look at our ranges, I can quickly speak to that. You know, we have what we call the classic range. And then we have above that, the vineyard collection range. And then above that, the dry land collection. each one of those ranges will have a component of dryland vineyard wine in it. And we strongly believe that these unirrigated vineyards really produce the best fruit. I remember one day also watching a TV program on the BBC where Dan Jager, who was the buyer for one of the big supermarkets, remarked, we all know that the best wines are made from dryland vineyards. And I certainly concur with that. Because it's small berries and the fruit is concentrated. So you have a deep color, you've got lovely fruit flavors, because the flesh to skin ratio, I think is what makes the difference there. Maybe unlike highly irrigated vineyards, where you might find that the wines are not as deep in color and maybe a little bit less thinner on the palate. So dryland is important for us, and we really believe that is what distinguishes our wines. We have a viticulturist that, of course, manages the vineyards. We classify all these vineyards into their quality, their ability based on terroir, history. As you know, we've got long history, so we keep good records, and therefore, over time, we've worked out exactly which wines, which vineyards, which slopes are producing the best wines, and we've obviously matched those and mapped it to our brands across the quality spectrum. Lots of hard work in the vineyards. We do very sustainable kind of farming. It's dryland vineyards, a lot of it, and we do cover crops to protect the soils. We also use the ladybirds and some other what do you call it, gogakis, that actually eat the vitrus, what do you call it, lois. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with English here. But yeah, so we try and do things right in the vineyards, but at the end of the day, it shows in your wines. And then from a wine team point of view, I mean, we've got a whole group of winemakers headed up by Albertus Lowe, who's also been in the industry for many, many years. He's got red winemaker, white winemaker, and a small cellar winemaker. And they all work together. I think one can safely say a lot of the wine's quality is made in the vineyards. And then in the cellar, of course, you have an opportunity to enhance it or destroy it. And I have to say that our team has done extremely well over years. So if you go look at our website and the accolades that we've received for our wines, it really is a long, long list. I mean, I remember just shortly after we launched the dryland collection, completely made from unirrigated vineyards. We won the best producer of the year at the Michelangelo, and it was mostly those wines that really came through. And it was just, I think, 2013 or 2014, somewhere there. Yeah, so I really, if you want to ask me, what really distinguishes us is the fact that we have got dryland components to our wines. And also maybe another interesting thing is that we do try and bring in very unique varietals and to try and be a little bit different. So we had a straight Cinsault. We believe it's one of the only dryland bush vine Cinsauts. We have a Cinsault Rosé. We've got a Malbec in our range. We've got Grenache Blanc. These are all wines that we put in our let's call it the innovative space, and the vineyard collection is the range that houses these wines. But then, of course, we have got also interesting stuff in our dryland and classic ranges. We do MCC sparkling, Chenin-based sparkling, and also Pinot Noir Chardonnay-based sparkling. Yeah, so innovation is very important. We recently also launched wine in a can at the very basic level. So we've got a range called the Soft Smooth Red range. Yeah, so maybe that's it. me stop there for a minute.
Well, I'd like to ask you about the can wine, because that seems to be something that's going to become a trend. Do you think it'll become a trend? Will it just be a fad? I see the Michelangelo awards are going to now actually reward, or they're going to have the same thing for canned wines now that they have for normal wines in terms of their ratings and stuff.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if I have to say personally, I mean, you know, I really do like to drink wine out of a glass. But I do think we need to recognize that there's a young new generation coming up that you know, they have different conventions and different ways of thinking about things. And yeah, so we've really launched our wine in a can for that reason. So we are targeting young people across the spectrum, and we really want to, particularly in South Africa, draw also from the underdeveloped wine market. So you know, we really need more people to adopt wine and bring them into the wine category. So you know, it's early days for us, but if I just look at the reports around the world, and South Africa does seem to follow trends often.